excited to have our guest today. And we are streaming live on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Kim, who's going to introduce the show today. And I look forward to having another round of discussion and storytelling today.
Perfect. Thank you, Tulio. So good afternoon, and thank you for joining us once again on Dojo Live today, Wednesday, the 6th of November, 2019, where we're co-creating the future of workplace diversity by sharing and learning the stories and experiences of tech luminaries. My name is Kim Lantis, broadcasting live from my home in Hermosillo, Sonora, Mexico. So if there's any kind of lack of connection or something like that today, I apologize. So with me today are the co-creators and co-producers of Dojo Live, Tulio Siragusa, who already introduced himself, as well as Carlos Ponce. Hi, guys.
Hi there, Kim.
Hello. So today we're going to be talking about something that's arguably more universal than Coca-Cola itself, and that is social networking. How can we overcome the tech social networking overload? Here to share his story is Sean Baer, the founder and CEO of Zoo-Hoo. Welcome to Dojo Live, Sean.
It's glad to be great to be here. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Thank you. So to get your story started today, would you please share a bit about yourself as well as Zoo-Hoo?
Yeah, sure. So academically, I got my MBA from the University of Denver. I went on to begin a PhD program in statistics with the Colorado School of Mines, and ended up selling my company about the same time. So that sort of petered out, and I focused on the sale of the company. Professionally, I've been in law enforcement for 23 years in the defense and law enforcement analytics space. I started a company way back in the day in the 90s called Baer Analytics, and I developed an app that enabled police departments all over the world to identify crime series and patterns and data and predict where and when things would happen. This app was used by law enforcement agencies all over the world, by Walmart, by Target, by Macy's, and eventually by the Defense Department. I've been programming since about the 8th grade, about 12 years old. And then after developing those law enforcement applications, I then moved into developing a system that actually took law enforcement agencies' data, normalized it, sent it to the cloud so that agencies could share and see each other's data. So it's sort of big data and being able to see a lot of disparate agencies' data all stored in a centralized location so that Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department could see the Washington, D.C. Police Department's data, and they could find trends and patterns in the data. And then on top of that, we provided even more analytics to help them identify those trends and patterns. And I sold that company to a company called LexisNexis about 4 years ago, and thought I was going to retire for a little bit. And then it was just too early, and had an idea for an app to help me be a better person about 18 months ago. And that was the creation of Zoo-Hoo, which is an app.
All right. Well, gosh, now you have me all distracted. Here I am. I have my guilty pleasure of having to watch like television shows about like serial murderers.
Yeah,
and
sorry.
child and stuff. Yeah, it's really interesting to me. Because when I was watching the Ted Bundy files, I remember a lot of the problem back in the 70s is there wasn't the ability for different states and those to communicate cross lines, and so it took longer, unfortunately, to catch him and people like him. Yeah. But anyway, I digress. Thank you for that contribution to society.
Yeah,
and let's transition a bit about this idea of Zoo-Hoo. So what is the story or the purpose behind your newest product?
So like any developer, like any software or programmer, I always wrote apps to help me be a better person and to help me, frankly, get out of work and to help me be more efficient and effective as an individual. So those law enforcement solutions that I wrote back in the day wasn't necessarily to start a company. It was to help me be a better analyst, a better police officer, better at my job. And it just so happened it started a company that allowed me to grow it and successfully exit out of that. And then I, having friends and family and business associates and the like, I had always used systems like CRMs, like Salesforce or HubSpot or Wise Agent for real estate. And those are great from a business perspective, but I really needed something to help me out to keep track of not only business associates, but also family and friends and neighbors, church members, all the people, all the individuals in my zoo. So that kind of is where the idea of Zoohoo was formed, the who's who in your zoo. It was a way for me to develop an app that was going to allow me to keep track of all the people that I interact with, and not just from an ancillary sort of Facebook approach or in my contacts app. It was a way for me to really get to know these individuals. And then because I have not the greatest memory in the world, to be able to keep track of these, what we call factoids, notes, goals, and important event dates in their lives, and be able to interact with them now armed with that information. So prior to that, prior to the app, I was using, of course, my contacts app, and I had all the people that I knew in contacts, like most people have. They don't have a system for it. And then when I met somebody and I wanted to remember something special about them, I would put it in my notes. And then when I wanted to be reminded of a birthday or the fact that they might be moving into a house or that a son's returning from a mission or whatever it was, I would put those in my calendar. And then there was all these bifurcated and sort of disparate systems that were being used to do what really a true CRM for business does, which is manage all the interactions between your customers. And I thought, what a great idea that if I could have a CRM for an individual. And it really didn't exist, so I embarked on writing that. And so the types of things that we capture with it aren't your standard items. Like, for example, one of the things we want to know about a person, or at least I want to know about a person, are their goals. Because if I want to really nurture a relationship with somebody and get to know them, be able to help them, I'm always wanting to know what they want to achieve in life. So that if I ever find myself out in society and I come across somebody who might be able to open a door for a friend of mine or a colleague of mine who has a goal, well, if I'm paying attention because I've written it down or because I've made sure to remember that, I can act on that. I can help that individual out. And so the other thing that sort of prompted this was not having the best memory and having a calendar that's already so overloaded with just business stuff and personal life stuff. I can't put 300 friends' birthdays in there. It's just too much. I would see just birthdays all over my calendar. And then to take it to anniversaries and significant life events that I want to celebrate with them or remind them of or to send them a note on, it just became too overwhelming. So that was the idea of sort of bringing those into the app to help me do that as well. So we capture goals and notes and factoids, and it has a reminding system that'll it'll let me know that, okay, well, Tulio's birthday is coming up in 30 days and he's several states away or maybe a country away. So if I want to have him receive a birthday card on his birthday, I need to, buy that now and probably send it a week or two in advance so that he's able to receive that. So it prompts you well in advance of that event based on when you want to be prompted. And then because I need this kind of reminder, you can set a sort of iterative reminder system to say, look, every 3 days, remind me again that Tulio's birthday is due and it's coming up. Because invariably what happens is I see it on my calendar and then I move on to the next day and it's forever forgotten, right?
Right. And I really love that you brought up this idea of the traditional birthday card. I can honestly tell you that that's something that in my life is lacking and missing. I couldn't even tell you the last time I received a physical birthday card in the mail. And it makes me come back to this idea that I think some people might consider it a bit ironic that you're using technology as a way to keep technology from getting in the way. Mm-hmm. But what other ways were you intentional about the design of Zoohoo? Like to be able to incorporate something like, hey, I don't know, I imagine it being like a setting where you can say, would you like how much time in advance? Would you like mailing reminders or those types of things? But what other ways were you intentional in that design in order for you to incorporate, these real life needs into the technology world?
Yeah, great question. So getting kind of back to that point with Facebook. So Facebook, I use it like everybody else in the world does. and it reminds me usually the day before, the day on, that it's their birthday. And unfortunately, like everybody else, we go out there, we might do an instant message to them, but we're usually posting on their wall, happy birthday. Maybe we put some emojis in there to make us special and unique, or we say happy birthday in a different way. And I just found that so impersonable that, yeah, we're acknowledging their birthday, but we only really did because we got reminded, and we were probably just surfing Facebook at work or at home, and might have forgotten the fact that it in fact was their birthday. So what the app is trying to get people to do is know about that birthday, that significant event. It doesn't have to be a birthday, well in advance to be able to act on that. And to your point about the personalized card, the app also has a way that through our affiliates, our partners, where if you want to gift somebody something like a card or some flowers or some chocolate, or go shop at Nordstrom for them, we have our app that'll take them through Nordstrom, and they can buy through Nordstrom, Amazon, Alibaba. There's just a quick way right when you're in the app to go purchase something for that person.
I imagine there's also some insight into that person's particular likes in the moment, or their kind of wish list.
Yeah, so that's where it gets back to the factoid. So if you're being a good friend, if you're being a good relationship partner in this, whether it be a friend, a family, business associates, you're paying attention to those important facts and goals and items about that individual that matter to them. So when it comes time to actually purchasing something, we're not even necessarily purchasing something, but sending something or writing a handwritten note and mailing it off to them. You can personalize it because you've been paying attention, because now you've built a more important or stronger relationship between each other. So that's kind of the intent of that.
Sean, this is great, and I totally relate with the idea of you have multiple social networks. Facebook's great at reminding you for birthday, so is LinkedIn, and potentially you can understand what people are interested when you join similar groups. So you have a sense of common interest, but there's no real intentionality behind any of these things, because you can't build what you're basically describing that you could do like in a CRM system with clients, like a journey or that kind of an environment where you have certain triggers based on certain interests, right? How does it work? Have you created a similar journey sort of model? Is there some AI built in? How does it help me as the user be proactive, be more intentional with, out of maybe the 8,000 people that I have connection with, maybe I want to keep up with them really, really closely. How would that help me do that?
I love that question. Thank you, because that actually gets to one of the core features of the application, and that is a contact frequency score. So I score myself on these are metrics that I've set for myself. So if I'm doing poorly, well, I can, it's because I've set those metrics, that bar for myself. But in the app, for each individual, for each Zuby that you have, you can set, look, I want to maintain a monthly relationship, or a yearly contact, or a quarterly contact, or even a daily contact. And there's a little heart that scores how well you're doing. So if it's been a little while since you've contacted Kim, and you've got her set for a bi-weekly contact, it'll let you know, hey, look, it might be time to reach out to her. So that's when you would either text or email or pick up the phone. That'd be unique, and reconnect to further that relationship.
Is the target strictly the consumer to consumer, or are you also targeting, for example, businesses where a leadership team wants to stay in touch with employees, or even peers stay in touch with each other, and especially in very large organizations? It's easier when you're like 20, 30, 40, 50 people. But when you're in organizations of 5,000, 10,000 folks, it gets to be very difficult. How does this come into play? And does it tie into any existing platforms like Facebook or LinkedIn? So I'm getting the data and I have to recreate the data. How does it work from that perspective?
Yeah, so you can tie to your existing contacts. So there's a feature that allows you to import your contacts when you first launch. And as you maybe build out your contacts, you can re-import new data that you might come across. And so if you needed to use a go-between, so if I needed to take data from LinkedIn or from a personal CRM, maybe we had Salesforce, and export it as CSV, I could then take it into my contacts and thus take it into Zuhu. That'd be one way. But we also integrate with Instagram. So that was the other thing that I was getting overwhelmed with the number of accounts that I was following on Instagram. And, there's so many Disney and cars and other accounts that I could follow where I begin to, because of the sheer volume of those accounts, travel accounts or, pretty picture accounts that I want to look at. And if I've got 30 friends that I also follow on Instagram, and I'm doing one of these numbers through Instagram because I'm just trying to catch up with all of the accounts that I follow, I could very easily blow past one of my very good friends' posts. Maybe, there's a niece that just went by, or there's my nephew that just went by, and I didn't see them because it's so overwhelming, and I'm following almost too many accounts. So it allows you to tell or to say that somebody in your zoo has an Instagram account, and it'll bring in those feeds. And then we have what's called an Insta Zoo. So I can have in my contacts, in essence, all of the feeds of just those people I want to make sure I don't miss out on. So instead of me going to Instagram and spending an hour, like I might now, to see the vast majority of the accounts that I follow, I could pull up the Insta Zoo in Zuhu, and probably in about 30 seconds, see all the most recent posts of all the very close friends or business associates or family that I have.
I love that. It's really beautiful design, I think, to bring some intentionality and control, right? Yeah. Because right now, I'm sorry, Tilly, we're talking over each other.
I just wanted to close the loop on that because I think that's really great on Instagram. I think a lot of people get a lot of slack for not always following back even their own friends, because at some point, you're just trying to limit how much is in your stream to things that really matter. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I had that ability, I actually could follow a lot more people, because then I could be more strategic or intentional about who I want to, keep up with.
Absolutely.
I have more control over that instead of being at the mercy of the algorithm they've set up.
Yeah, precisely. Exactly. But going back to the heart of intentionality.
Follow me back because I don't want to see your stuff. Like, you're putting old selfies of yourself. Maybe I want to follow something that has a little bit more substance, but I do want to see something from you once in a while, and I can't control that now.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah.
That's really beautiful. So talking about intentionality in relationships, it seems to me that Zuhu is automatically going to bring in users, gravitate toward people who are already naturally intentional in their relationships. What would you say to people or listeners, viewers today who might not have that natural inclination, who might struggle a bit more to be more intentional in their relationships with others? What's the value here? Like, why should this perhaps be more important to them? And do you maybe have any success stories that you've heard from Zuhu users?
Yeah, we had an unsolicited success story not too long ago. We had a news media piece done on us, and they interviewed somebody who was a user of the app, and she actually has a memory problem. I don't know whether it was from birth or because of accident, but she has trouble with her memory. And she's actually using Zuhu to keep track of, again, those important bits and pieces of her friends and family and in her case, her schoolmates that she wanted to remember. So she was actually using it almost as a memory enhancement tool. So that was one that sort of even shocked us. We were like, oh my goodness, I guess this is a helpful app for people, not just people like me who are forgetful and sort of, maybe a little bit absent-minded. Because I'm that kind of person. When I go to meet somebody, truthfully, I'll turn around and walk away. I'll be like, wait, what was their name again? I don't necessarily have the best recollection for names. Faces, yes. So this is one of those things. Zuhu is one of those apps that once I meet somebody, if I can just take a few seconds after meeting them and just quickly jot down a few things into the app, which makes it very easy to do. It number one is going to solidify those things that I want to know about that individual. And then when I meet them next, or when I encounter them next, or I know I'm going to be at a place where they're going to be at, what I find myself doing now is, like, for example, before going to an event or before going to, again, church or something else, I'll pull up the app and just make sure I'm up to date and sort of up to speed on all the people that I know, because sometimes I forget about, oh yeah, they had, this son that just began a medical program over at this university, or oh yeah, they just had a daughter who was doing humanitarian efforts over in England, or these are things that matter to those individuals. And thus, if I want to get to know them better and truly nurture a relationship, I want to remember those things and I want to talk to them about them. And because it all goes back to, as you all know, sort of, you mentioned the CRM, Carlos, and how that might come into play. That's based on a lot of Harvey Mackay's 66 items of information you want to know about your customer. And so a lot of CRMs are based around that. And of course, our app takes a little bit of that, but is also based loosely on Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Mm-hmm. I mean, these are sort of tried and true principles that if you want to nurture a relationship with somebody, if you want to be able to build a network, whether it be a social network or a business network, to help you advance and help the people that you like advance, these are the sorts of items that we capture, and these are the sorts of principles that we follow and the processes that we do in order to do that. So go ahead.
If I recall correctly, I've only read bits and pieces of Carnegie's book, but a large part of that, if I'm not mistaken, is habit.
Yeah, a lot of it. Yeah.
And Zuhu is allowing us to create habits, these good habits in our lives of
hold you accountable.
Exactly.
Sean, I'm interested to ask. Currently, it's like a closed garden, right? So my network or my connection is specific to me. So, yes. And I'm able to set up certain interests, and does it match me up to other people that have similar interests? So I have some cultural connection in terms of things that matter to the people across my network.
No, right now it's all about you being the zookeeper of your zoo.
I'm the zookeeper.
Yeah, you're
am I able to put certain interests and things of that sort so that I'm able to see across my friends similar interests and have those? Okay, great.
Yeah, and in fact, we're going to report on that.
Intentionality behind what we're doing. Is the plan to eventually expand where I can begin to see other zookeepers network, and at least at the interest level, so that I can begin to expand my circle of connections, or is it to keep it more,
Yeah, you guys are good. So, we have version 1.0, and every version 1.0, as a software developer, I can tell you, we're never happy with it. It's just, let's make sure we get something into the hands of our users so they begin to see the idea here and begin to sort of work out a little bit of the kinks too. And so, yeah, we've just released version 1.0. We're hard at work on version 1.1.0. But to your question, the app is going to be incorporating a lot more, I don't want to necessarily call it AI, but analytical sorts of promptings that might let you know, hey, look, this other person over here has these connections or has these interests. And then eventually, I mean, if we go down the past 6 months to maybe 18 months, I want people to be able to, one, share their Zoobies with others, but also be able to do, like from my law enforcement days, analytics against their zoo. So to be able to see that, okay, here's my zoo, and now report on my zoo. How many people are female, male? How many people like football? How many people have birthdays in October? How many people begin to do word clouds against the data? So it's beginning to sort of report on the information that I've captured, so that I can see that, you know what, it looks like I have more dog people than cat people in my zoo. That's interesting. And sort of a descriptive part about the data there. But then down the road, the hope is, as we develop more and more users, that here's where I think it's going to get good. That if I, as a Zoohoo user, say, you know what, I'm okay with making my location known to other Zoohooers so that they can be ready to go and ready to talk with me if I'm nearby. The hope is that if I'm in a mall or if I'm out and about, and somebody else who is in my zoo is also in the same, let's say, mall as I am, but I haven't quite gotten to where they're at yet. I might not want to necessarily bump into them, but I also don't want to be caught off guard. So what it would do is have proximity alerts to let me know that, hey, look, Kim is in the mall, and here were the last things you guys talked about, or here were their things that matter to Kim. So that if I did run into Kim in the mall, I'd be like, hi, Kim, how's it going? How's your dog, Bella? Oh, how is your mom doing? I remember you said she wasn't, feeling too well, or how's that new car doing? The types of things that would help me it would be nice if I could remember all those facts, but I can't because my memory is not stellar, and I have hundreds of people that I have relationships with. So this is that way that a little bit of more AI and proximity analysis might come into play.
That's really fun. Or the converse of that, I'm in the grocery store in my pajamas, braless and without
You
makeup.
don't want to know anybody.
Abort, run.
You can use it however you want to use it. Functionality will be there for you.
It's interesting. I mean, this was the intention behind what social networking was supposed to become, but it became this sort of huge behemoth marketing machine, really. That's what it's become, an influencer machine. And I love the idea of it becoming, intentional networking, right? It's not just social network, it's intention. There's intention behind it. Sounds fantastic. I keep thinking, like, what a great application for companies, not just the individuals. I mean, we at Nearso, for example, have self-managed team. Each team could have its own zookeeper, for example, and cross-pollinate and cross-share what's going on. And in currently your user base, is it mostly in the U.S.? What is the composition of the user base? Where are you getting?
Yeah, we're global already. It happened pretty quick. I think we're in 13 countries now.
Wow.
And so we've got a pretty broad spectrum of countries represented, not necessarily all English speaking, although the vast majority of the people in those countries are using it in an English speaking format. But yeah, it grew pretty fast in that regard. To your point about the using it for business, we absolutely think at a minimum small business could use this. And when I say small, it could even be a sole proprietor. So real estate agents should absolutely have this. When I did real estate for a little while, that's what real estate is all about. It's getting to know your client extremely well, so you know what truly the type of house they need to buy for them is. You don't want to have that sort of arm's length relationship with that individual. You want to know what, the dog or the cat, you want to know the neighborhood that they're after. You want to know all the kids' names and their ages and the schools that they would need to go to. You really need to know these people, and you need to know them really quick and in a genuine way as well. So it's not just, sort of non-genuine. You want to know them because you want to be able to serve them the best you can. So real estate agents, this is an outstanding tool for them. And of course, most real estate agents obtained their future business from referral. Right. So you need to establish strong interpersonal relationships with those individuals that you do business with, and then thus ask them nicely to help introduce you to the new set of customers because they know friends and family and so on and so forth. So when I practiced real estate for a little while, in that period where I thought I was retired to where I started Zoohoo, and really the real estate thing is what was a part of my aha moment. It was that it could absolutely be a benefit to an agent, that the types of information they need is not available through Facebook. It's because you would have that one-on-one interaction. They're telling you stuff, and unless you've got a perfect memory, you're going to have a problem. So you better write that down. You better put it somewhere. And yeah, you can go put it into a big CRM, but they just don't ask the kind of questions that I find truly build a strong relationship amongst individuals that you can then use.
Sounds like the ultimate tool if you're a solopreneur, right?
Absolutely, no doubt about it.
Nothing covering that, those individuals, coaches, real estate agent, you name it. We're up on time, Kim. Unless you have
I guess I just have one last question. It is our last couple minutes of the show, and I just wanted to know, Sean, with this experience through Zoohoo, what have you learned about yourself along this journey that you perhaps didn't know before? And how has the experience of building Zoohoo changed you?
Boy, that is a big question. Okay, well, I'll try and tie it up here for you in a couple of minutes. So, like I said, I've been doing software since I was 12 years old, and I've always loved the fact that I can write a piece of code that can not only help me be a better person, but can help other people be better people. So that's one of the great things about software development is that you can do things that enrich people's lives. And I think, obviously we talked about my prior past of fighting criminals and capturing insurgents on the battlefield. That was extremely rewarding, but equally rewarding is, if not more so, is helping people to connect better. We are overwhelmed in sort of social media right now with Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and everything else like that, that even though yet it's another piece of software, another social media platform, the intent of this social media platform, it's a tool for the tools. So yes, we've got all those, but this really sort of is meant to not only leverage those, but to be that tool for you to be a better friend, a better neighbor, a better church member, a better business associate. So the intent of it is to be able to help people just be better people. And I think, certain people will take away from it what's going to help them. And I'm glad for that. For me, because I actually use the app, it helps me be more responsive with the people that I love and that I respect and that I know. So again, friends, family, business associates. So I use the app to be that reminder for me. It actually eliminates a lot of the work that I had created for myself with the calendar, with notes, with other sorts of reminder apps that I've tried. It's actually made me more efficient and thus effective at my interactions. And it gives me that time that I need to show that person that they mean something to me by sending the card or by picking up the phone or by inviting them to lunch a couple of days prior to their birthday, so that I can, go out around their birthday or around their special event. So that's really the intent of it. And what I've learned from it is that, people, I think, want this. We've had so much positive feedback that people are sort of tired of just writing on the wall on somebody's birthday, that we need to get back to what we were doing and have a one-on-one, interaction and communication and build those relationships.
So for those listeners and viewers today who no longer want to be a mile wide and an inch deep, but give quality over quantity a chance, how and where could they download your app of Zoo Who?
Thank you. Well, the Google Play Store and the App Store. It's available on both Android and iOS, and all you got to type in is Zoo, and it'll be the only app that pops up, and they can download that. It's free. There's no ads. We don't sell your data. Those are big takeaways. Again, from a public safety background, I'm very sensitive to data privacy and security. We're not going to sell the data. It does ask you to import your contacts. You don't have to import contacts, so you can hand enter whatever you want, but it's your data, and you can use it, like I said, as you wish, but you can get it for Android and iOS. And I hope your listeners and viewers download it.
Well, I'm going to download it because it's
you.
about giving meaning to your connections. That's what it's really about.
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us. We're up on time. Carlos or Kim, you want to close this out?
No, it was a pleasure speaking with you today, Sean. And I thank you for what you have done and continue to do to make people better.
Thank you.
The only thing left for me, Sean, is thank you again for having agreed to be here with us on Dojo Live. It was a pleasure, and we're going to keep you posted on any upcoming interviews that we have for the future. And of course, you're more than welcome to share your info. If anyone wants to get a hold of you or get in touch with you, is there a place where they can do so?
I'm more than happy to entertain any emails. I'm the one who usually will respond back to any comments I receive on on our website or through the app stores. I take it personal. It's it's the company, but it's also something deeply personal to me. So if you just send me an email to sean@zoo.com, I'll respond to you.
There you go.
We put that on the Dojo site.
Yeah. It's all going to be in there in the landing page of for this interview, but just thought I would mention it. And again, thank you big time, Sean. It was a pleasure. Kim, thank you. Tulio, thank you. That's ever.
Thank you. Pleasure meeting all of you.
See you next time.
My new Zoobies. See ya.
Bye.